everybody! So today I wanted to talk a little bit about a new film that's opening this weekend called Me Before You. And normally I'm a big fan of romances. Normally I love movies like The Notebook, or I love Sleepless in Seattle, and Nora Ephron's writing are some of my favorites. And so normally this kind of movie would be right up my alley. I had the experience last October of reading the book, Me Before You, for book club, and I hated the book. I found it extremely manipulative, and that it didn't give the characters enough choices to make the ending feel valid. I felt like it was very poorly written as far as the dialogue and the characters and everything about it. I just thought it was horrible, and I felt like it manipulated the reader into agreeing with something that I thought was actually quite deplorable and quite awful. And I resented the fact that it did that. And I did not like the book. I was not going to see the movie. The only reason I saw the movie was because I got a free screener, and so it was free. And so I figured I'm going to go see it, so that makes my opinion valid. And so I'm going to talk a little bit non-spoiler here at the top, and then I will talk spoiler. Let me just say that I encourage you to not see this movie. Please don't see Me Before You, because, let me ask you this question. Would you see a movie that you knew was racist? Would you see a movie that you knew was homophobic? I hope not. I don't see why a movie that is so hurtful in its depiction of the disabled and the disabled choices and their life is any different than any other derogatory or horrible movie about any other group. And I don't know why some people give this a free pass, because they make it seem like it's his choice to do what he ends up doing, but he's not given enough choices. He's not given all of the information, and so it comes off as extremely, extremely offensive to those that have disabilities or have loved ones who have disabilities, or just people who care about people. And I just encourage you to not see this film. But let me tell you a few little good things about the movie. The dialogue is better than in the book. I have to give him credit. And I think that the side characters are better. The family of Lou, her family, is better. They're not as judgmental. They're not as difficult. Her sister's way better than in the book. His family is better. In the book, his family is so stupid. They have a son who is a quadriplegic, and they consider voice software so that he can speak his typing and things like that. That Lou has to go and research that for them. I mean, come on, these are supposedly super rich people. That's what I'm talking about. They don't give him enough choices to make the decision that he makes. They don't give him enough information. And so but I did think that those things were better. And I do think that Emilia Clarke, Sam Claflin have decent chemistry together. But be aware that Emilia Clarke's character, Lou, is a classic manic pixie dream girl trope. She's got the kooky clothes and the weird little outlook on life, and she sort of exists to cheer up the male protagonist in the story, and that's classic manic pixie dream girl. You know exactly where this is going the whole way. It's completely predictable, and so it's not a good movie in that way, but, I like a dopey, stupid romance. So if it didn't do what it does, then I wouldn't have as big of a problem with it. I would enjoy it on some level. But because it does, I can't endorse it. And I would just strongly urge you to not see this movie and to... it's just really, really offensive stuff. And I'll show you some of the protests and some of the comments made by disabled groups and organizations, and I think they are right. I think this is an extremely offensive film. So now I'm going to talk about spoilers. So at the end of this movie, we find out that, so basically, Will Traynor is a quadriplegic, and he had been this really active person, and he becomes a quadriplegic, and he's been 2 years, he's really, really depressed, he's tried to commit suicide once before. He decides that he's going to go to Switzerland and undergo assisted suicide in 6 months. He tells his parents that he's going to give it 6 months. So they hire Lou to like cheer him up and hopefully like make a difference. And they have like everything all laid out for him. He's got his own annex. He's got his own kitchen. He's got everything. They're super rich. They live in a castle, right? And that's why I'm saying it's so ridiculous that they wouldn't have researched voice activation software, that they wouldn't have a support group, that they wouldn't have gotten him friends, nothing like that. And so basically, like, Lou finds this out, that Lou finds out about this plan, and so she tries to like give him something to live for, but like her attempts to give him something to live for are so shallow. Like, she takes him to the track, and then she takes him to a concert, and that's not the kind of thing that you live for. I mean, it's pleasant, it's nice, it's inspiring, it's good. And she takes him to the beach. That's not something that you live for. You live for knowing that your life matters, and so take him to a school, take him to a special needs school, show that he could be an inspiration to people, especially with his money, show him that he could actually do something good with his life and help him feel empowered. Like, I don't understand why he's not able to work at all. He's just kind of bored. Of course he's bored with his life. Of course he feels meaningless because he's not able to, he just sits around, lies around. Like, in today's day and age, he could do so much. He could answer calls, he could type using the voice software. There's so much that a quadriplegic can do, especially if you have unlimited funds. And so, of course, he feels bad about his life because he's not given enough choices. And so that's what's frustrating about it, is that they try to sell you that this suicide is somehow a valid life choice because it's his choice, but it's really not, because he's not given all of the choices in order to not make this choice. And so I just found it so offensive. And, like, every time I've ever heard assisted suicide argued, it's for somebody who has a terminal illness, and they throw in here that he's had pneumonia a couple times, that he has great pain, but you actually never see him in this pain. So it's sort of lost on you a little bit. But there's nothing that's saying he's going to die in a year, he's going to die in 10 years or whatever. And he actually says at a certain point that, he doesn't want to be a regret for Lou down the road, and he wants her to live boldly and live well. That is so offensive to somebody that is a disabled person, that that they are somehow a burden upon their loved ones, and a burden upon that life would be better, that their loved ones have regrets, about them living. That's just so offensive to me. And I just, like, normally I don't care if people see movies or don't see movies. Like, I didn't care. If people want to see 50 Shades of Grey, go for it. If people want to see Adam Sandler movies, go for it. Like, if you want to see Transformers, go for it. I don't agree. I don't like those things. But this is something that I actually think is really repulsive, and it makes me sick. And so I just don't see this movie. Like, please. It's not good. It's not even a good movie if you take out all of that. But when you add in this layer of this whole movie celebrating the suicide of a man that doesn't need to kill himself, it's just wrong, and it's sickening, and it makes me mad. And I just had to say it. I just don't see this movie. If I convince one person not to see this movie, and it's not just me, I want to read to you I want to read to you from the words of a quadriplegic activist named Dr. Shane Clifton. And he says, this is about the book. He says, "Now before you get on your high horse and remind me that some people do choose to die and that that's their right, let me say that I understand that quadriplegia is downright hard to live with, and many people have it much harder than I do, and the person that chooses suicide has my compassion and support, but I am not going to celebrate that choice." And then he goes on to say, he says, he says, if you decide to see the movie, he says, I hope that you notice that it reinforces the stereotype that women need a man to tell them what to do, and that you understand that our playboy hero is really a privileged white guy who just can't come to terms with the fact that life is fragile and difficult, but that if you fight the good fight and persevere, it's worth it in the end. And like the end of the movie and in the book, he gives her his inheritance and tells her to go, and this is his gift to her. And I just, again, I find that so offensive. Like, this suicide is somehow celebrated within the story. It's gonna lead her to all these great things in her life, and what a noble gift that he's giving to her. And I just read one more quote from Dr. Clifton. He says, actually, the book is about a quadriplegic who wants to die, and at the end of the book chooses to do so despite the fact that he found love and had a loving, supporting family, and so had an amazing opportunity to live a full and flourishing life. He was, after all, as rich as is a bottle of fine whiskey and could have afforded any number of compensations to manage life with a disability, unlike most quadriplegics who are poor but still choose to live. So let's not beat around the bush. This is a book celebrating suicide. Worse, it's a book that presumes that suicide is the only rational response to the experience of living with quadriplegia. That's really, really, really sick. And so I just don't see this movie. Please don't. And anyway, that's my rant on that. And it's not a good film even without all of that. So I give it an F. I hate it. But yeah, anyway. So that's all I want to say about that. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.